We now proceed to Congresswoman Colleen Hanabusa of Hawaii.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for letting me participate in this hearing. Like Ms. Songas, I have a personal interest. I have a husband whose cousin, West Point grad, is still MIA in the Korean War, and we've been watching JPAC as a result of that. So first, I think one of the critical issues, and Ms. Farrell, I'll begin with you, has been that we are not in a contained situation. It is not like just Bosnia and looking for remains, or Argentina and geographically defined. I think the GAO report makes it very clear that one of the issues we have is that for PACOM's jurisdiction, and it's World War II, we are looking at numbers about 80,000 people that are out there, however they may be classified. Dr. Cole says, we should focus. I understand what he's saying, but the result is there is a lot. And there's also the inability to access in certain areas, because my understanding is one of the problems we have that, for example, other countries in Asia may not have, is they may have better relationships into the areas where they're trying to procure using Dr. Cole's statement. I think that's also something that the GAO report concluded as well. Am I correct?
If you're talking about there needs to be agreements or some type of mechanisms in place other than what PACOM has taken steps with UCOM or their area of responsibility, you're absolutely correct.
And even within the PACOM jurisdiction, to get to certain areas to procure, where there would have been obviously remains historically defined, you still have to have relationships with those areas and the ability to send in archaeologists or historians or anyone that we need to start the first step, which is the procurement. That's also understood, right?
Correct.
Now, your focus of your report is that there needs to be the community working together, but you do not make a recommendation as to how they would work together. Mm-hmm. So who would make that decision, not GAO, but who would make that decision as to how this community will finally focus and get together?
Well, I think currently it's up to the Secretary of Defense and the Deputy Secretary. We do know that after our report was issued, the Undersecretary for Policy did brief Secretary Hagel regarding the findings and specifically the recommendation on examining options for the organizational structure. And we know that taskings were sent out to DPMO to look at details regarding implementation costs, if any, that would be associated with these various options and report back. We do not know the status of that. We do not have any documentation that shows exactly what they are looking at. But this is an issue because it does involve so many chains of command, would have to be, at least I would think, up at the Deputy Secretary level.
Thank you. Dr. Cole, you come to JPAC as a fellow originally, is that correct?
That's correct. I still am.
You still are a fellow. And how long are you going to be at JPAC?
Depends on what happens today, I think. But the ORISE Fellowship Program provides for a 5-year maximum.
I see.
And I'm into the 3.5 years.
3.5 years. Okay, Dr. Cole, who exactly either were the person who brought you or you directly report to as the fellow?
I report to lab management. No one brought me to JPAC. I was a management consultant and working in the telecommunications business in Africa for 12 years. Before that, I was with the RAND Corporation, and when I was with RAND, I did a lot of work with the SILHI, the Central Identification.
I'm running out of time. I'm sorry to put you off.
So, that's how
that would have been
the
CI, the CIL. Okay. Now, your report, so I understand it, is you're not critical of the lab functions. You believe the lab function is really the state of the art. You're critical of the procurement aspect of it. Is that also correct?
No, I'm not critical of anything. I reported the findings.
So you feel that the way JPAC is functioning, I thought you said they're inefficient. Maybe the word is inefficient is in the procurement portion of it.
That's correct, ma'am.
So everything else, in other words, if they were to get more remains to work on, then you feel that everything else would fall into place, the 4 steps. And you would have the identification.
Reasonably well, yeah.
So you don't take issue with the identification report, which is your end product. You were just saying that there's not enough done in terms of the procurement aspect of it.
That's correct. The identification step, for example, that's confirmed by external consultants, and then there's a DoD procedure called the AFIRB, the Armed Forces Identification Review Board. If there's a problem with that identification, there's a process to review it. So there's a lot of internal controls. Also, there's accreditation in the lab that looks after a lot of those procedures.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, my time is up. Thank you.
And Ms. Hanabusa, thank you very much.